What's the groove, party people? Thank you for tuning in to Black with No Chaser. Be sure to download the BWNC radio app in your phone's app store. My name is George Chuck Patterson, and we have a very special guest in the studio today. We are joined by Marc Morial, the CEO of the National Urban League. Marc, welcome to the studio. Thanks for being here today.
Let me just let you all know, thank you for having us. And we worked through our technical difficulties, and now we are live and ready to go.
Thank you for being
good deal. So,
yeah, thank you.
Good deal. So just to give you a quick overview of what BWNC is, we're a digital media platform that provides news commentary, and we also do it from a Black perspective. So we thank you for being here with us as we are reaching millions of people all over the Black diaspora.
Thank you. I'm honored to be
We are joined by...
Go ahead.
We are joined by our BWNC news correspondents, Candice and Angela. Angela?
Hello, my name is Angela Dennis. I am a correspondent for Black with No Chaser. I'm also based in Tennessee and am a reporter for the USA Today network here. And I'll go ahead and introduce my colleague, Candice.
Hi there, I'm Candice Cole Jackson, and I'm also a correspondent for BWNC News, a new endeavor that we are lifting off the ground as we speak. So thank you again so much, Marc, for joining us tonight.
Well, congratulations to the three of you on your endeavor, and may you prosper and thrive.
Thank you so much. I guess we'll just dive in. We're obviously going to be discussing this, the State of Black America report for 2023 that will be releasing to publicly tomorrow. It's the 47th edition, entitled Democracy in Peril, Confronting the Threat from Within. And if you can just tell some of our viewers and our listeners a little bit about what to expect from this report.
Thank you for having me. And so the important thing to really level set is that for 47 years, the National Urban League has released this report annually to ensure that the social and economic conditions of Black America are reported on authentically, unambiguously, and from a Black perspective. And that's the value proposition of the State of Black America report. Now, this report delves into the threat within, meaning the domestic threats that we face coming from the movement of hate, extremism, and white supremacy in this nation. And what we seek to do is paint a picture. And the picture we seek to paint is a picture of how hate, extremism, and white supremacy impact important policy choices in this country. First of all, right in Tennessee, we've witnessed one of the most naked attacks on democracy that we've seen in modern times. And that was the removal of the two legislators from the Tennessee legislature. And of course, we're proud that they've been reinstated. The hundreds of voter suppression bills introduced across the nation, the hundreds of bills to suppress African American being introduced throughout the nation. All of this has been the poisonous tree of hate, extremism, white supremacy. And so the report talks about this, connects these dots, and helps to elevate why we need to fight back against this and lift up our vision of the future of this nation.
If you can also talk a little bit about some of the data. I understand that you all partnered with Southern Poverty Law Center and the UCLA's Law's anti-CRT legislative tracking project. What kind of data, can our readers find in this report?
Well, you're going to see data on the number of hate crimes, data on the number of documented hate groups, data on the number of books banned, the number of proposals from school boards, state legislatures, attorney generals that have as their intent to ban books, censor or suppress Black American history and the study of race and racism in America. And that data is important because people will recognize how widespread this is. No isolated movement.
Right.
This is a far-ranging movement, and that's why we've got to counteract it. We cannot be silent. We cannot be complicit. We cannot be accepting. We've got to push back.
Based on some of the findings in the report, what do you believe has motivated or been the cause of, the rise in hate and extremism in our country that this report reflects? There was a statistic that stood out that saying that hate crime increased 44% in 2021.
Donald Trump is a significant factor in normalizing harsh racial rhetoric. The backlash to the election of Barack Obama is a factor. The resentment directed towards the Black Lives Matter movement is a factor. The resentment towards the changing demographics in America are indeed a factor. There are multiple factors, but I think those are factors. Now, this hatred, this extremism has always been there. It's never gone away, but it's operated sometimes in the shadows and in the margins. Over the last several years, we've seen an effort to normalize it, to justify it, to rationalize it, to give it a mainstream acceptability.
What is the National Urban League, doing to respond to this issue of hate in America and the way that it's impacting Black communities?
Our first responsibility is to create significant awareness so that people are not confused that this is not widespread. So people are not confused that this is not correct. Secondly, we are in coalitions on the White House, and the White House responded last fall with the United We Stand Summit, calling on the Departments of Homeland Security and Justice to use full powers of law enforcement to crack down on this. Let's take an example from 2022. Buffalo, New York. The killer in Buffalo, New York was a hater. His hate was fueled, his hate was energized by what he saw on the internet. So we are also calling on internet companies to police their own sites, to keep hate off of their sites. Twitter took a backward step when its ownership changed and reduced, if you will, its content moderation standards. So we need government, we need online companies, we need law enforcement, but we need people to be aware, to speak out, to push back, and to say that this is wrong.
If I may just jump in, is you noted that this has been, perhaps it's just kind of been like waiting in the wings, but it's been ever growing and ever present, even going back to Obama's administration. And as you noted, what we have, seen happen with the two Justins in Tennessee who were ousted and reinstated back in office. We've also seen Governor Abbott in Texas. He's rushing to pardon a man who in 2020 had killed a Black Lives Matter protester, even before he's sentenced. My question to you is, what is there a call to action specifically for younger people, younger voters, millennials, those who would be of the Representative Justin Jones and Justin Pearson age group to really enforce the change? We've seen a lot of demonstrations, a lot of that sort of thing, but is there something that you feel will bring us over the edge to actually get us to where we need to be?
Looking for a silver bullet is a fool's errand. There is no silver bullet. We learn from history. It took marches, it took litigation, it took political empowerment to knock down the walls of segregation. It took sustained work. I think what we saw and what we see in Justin Pearson and Justin Jones is we see how important it is to have young people in elected office, what they bring in terms of voice, what they bring in terms of authenticity. How do you get young people in elected office? Young people must run and young people must vote. So we have to also say it is self-defeating to believe that not voting sends a message to anyone. Not voting is disempowering. And we have to make sure that we vote, we vote ourselves, we vote to reaffirm our power, we fight for American democracy. We are in a long battle. We are going to have to continue to litigate. We're going to have to continue to agitate. We're going to have to continue to legislate because this is not the kind of, if you will, fight that will be solved by a single piece of legislation or a presidential executive order or a judicial decree from the Supreme Court. This is so ingrained in the body politic of too many Americans that we must fight back. Black people must fight back. People of all races must fight back. And we must fight back because we have to embrace a vision of a multicultural, multiracial, multi-religious, multi-orientation democracy. So it's going to take tremendous amounts of effort and tremendous amounts of work. So my message to all of the community, especially my young brothers and sisters, is don't get frustrated and don't get tired. We are in for a long, long fight.
Did you have anything else, Candice?
I might.
Okay. I actually did have a couple of questions. I obviously am here in Tennessee, so I was at the Capitol last Thursday during the expulsions of Representative Pearson and Jones. And, obviously what led up to, them being expelled was this sort of protest. They were protesting for gun reform on the House floor. And we saw those two get expelled. And then we saw my local representative, Gloria Johnson. Obviously, she was not expelled. And I just wanted to get, as a former politician or legislator and mayor of New Orleans, what is your take on, on this, on why that happened to them?
I don't know why, and we have not heard a word from those legislators who on one hand voted to expel Justin Pearson and Justin Jones and then twisted their vote and voted against the expulsion
Right.
of the person you referred to. We haven't heard from them. I think the media, the press, the community should ask them, what was the difference? Why did you vote differently when it came to her? We transparently and in our eye see race as the sole factor because there doesn't seem to be any others. But what about these legislators? Many of these Tennessee legislators have been remarkably silent. They don't have anything to say publicly because they, by their actions, gave the state of Tennessee a black eye. They, by their actions, tried to twist the narrative and say we're expelling these members because of decorum when they were expelling those members because of their advocacy for gun safety. And I might add, in Tennessee, they were standing up for 6 people, 5 of whom were white. 2 black legislators, they were standing up for people that the rest of the legislature should have been standing up for. And this legislature has embarrassed itself completely and fully.
One other question that I had, I'm working on a follow-up to this, and I was just curious, what you think about, why are Republicans, some of these legislators in Tennessee, why do they deem, these two young Black lawmakers, why are they so threatened by this idea of, their, I guess, display of Black pride, or willing to be so vocal when it comes to gun violence and reform in this country? Why do you feel like some of the legislators are so threatened by that?
All I can say is I see old white supremacy at work. The notion of how dare you speak out?
Right.
How dare you advocate? How dare you disrupt?
Right.
There's something here which smacks of plantation politics. There's something here which smacks of the old South. And I'm a son of the South. And I am not going to be silent, because we cannot let the scourge of the past rear its ugly head and we sit there and watch it and say nothing.
When Justin Pearson was asked, now that they have been reinstated, would they go against the rules of decorum again? And his response was, if that's what it takes for justice, then his answer essentially was yes. What do you say to that?
Look, I think that he is basically saying that he will not allow himself to be intimidated. I served in a legislative body, and rules of decorum and violations of decorum are not uncommon in a legislative body. And I think that you will see them continue to advocate. But what was interpreted as a violation of decorum was not a violation of decorum. It was just advocacy in the spirit of the First Amendment. I watched those tapes. I said, well, they had a bullhorn on the House floor. So is that something that offended, and it seemed like more legislators being offended than a violation of a rule? So we have to understand that unfair rules, or rules selectively enforced, are going to be met with swift condemnation.
I was speaking to the legal director for Black Voters Matter, and she basically summed up, like what we're seeing now with what happened in Tennessee, and also Governor Abbott's move to try to pardon this convicted murderer now, akin to a blueprint for white supremacists to carry out white supremacist policy, primarily in southern states. Would you agree with that? And if so, do you think that that Black disinvestment in those areas where these things are occurring is an option, is a real thing that could happen?
We always preserve all options. You have to preserve all options, but we also have to be intelligent about our use of the tools we have. There's an old saying, when you strike a lion, you better take him down. So just suggesting disinvestment or suggesting boycotts that don't create change, we have to maintain it as a tactic. We have to be intelligent about the use of all tools in our toolkits. There's some of us, for example, who do conventions each year, who've been in discussions about whether we should refuse to bring our conventions to certain states, right? So that's a form of sending a message to southern states. The point, though, is that in some cases, if you do that, you could impact majority Black cities or substantially Black cities like Atlanta, New Orleans, or Birmingham. So that's why we have to be selective, right? And in that some of them may say, don't visit New Orleans, don't visit Birmingham, don't visit Atlanta. We don't live there. So I say that I'm real transparent about this. Yes, we want to keep it in the toolkit, but yes, we want to use all tactics carefully, strategically, and intelligently. And sometimes one may morally say, look, for years, because the Confederate flag flew over South Carolina, no African-American group, civil rights group, Divine Nine would host an official meeting or an official convention in South Carolina. And that sustained for some 20 plus years. Do we want to consider that again? Sometimes we may want to go to the site and go to where things are the toughest and protest the loudest. And I say this, it is so troubling to see Governor Abbott. I wonder what's in this man's soul. You're pardoning a murderer.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying a murderer before he's even sentenced. Shame on you, Governor Abbott. Mm-hmm. Have you no decency? Have you no respect for the system?
And I guess just to follow up on that, because I definitely have an appreciation for what you're saying in terms of disinvestment could also hurt Black communities as well. Is there a mechanism that you see, or that we as a community, as a people, could adopt? Because there's other calls, like in other states, like, as for example in Florida, the NAACP is calling for Black people not to visit Florida because of how problematic Ron DeSantis is and his anti-Black legislation that he has passed. Is there a mechanism that that is either there or that could be there to help uplift those of us that are in those states, that are in those towns?
I don't like to telegraph strategic blows before they occur, because there are many conversations underway now about what would be effective and what would be meaningful, sending the strongest possible message. And I think you're going to hear about this from some of us in the future. But it's one of the lessons from the Montgomery bus boycott of 1955 is that it was a boycott in a single city against a single company. And it had a very clear objective: integrate the seating on the buses. It wasn't a boycott of every business. It was very selective. And one of the reasons why it was effective is because it hurt the bus company from an economic point of view. And that pain, combined with litigation, brought about the change that we celebrate in history today. So we've got to learn, we've got to study, we've got to understand that economic. Well, now sometimes you may do it from a symbolic purpose. I may decide personally, hey, I'm not going to the state of Florida, but suppose I was asked to attend a funeral there, right? Suppose I had family members there. So it's not as simple and as clear cut as that. So I don't want people to misinterpret. I'm not saying we shouldn't consider it or do it.
So the last thing that we heard you say was that we have to be thoughtful in terms of how we, deploy boycotts and that sort of thing, but we didn't get to hear the end of your thought there.
Thoughtful and careful, and we can't telegraph our blows.
Got it. Thank you.
So thank you for obviously taking the time to speak with us about this report tomorrow. If you can just let our listeners and our readers know where they can find this report tomorrow.
So NUL.org, and we are going to be at Morehouse College in Atlanta on Tuesday at 10 a.m. with an official release event. And those in the Atlanta area, please join us at the Ray Charles Center for the Performing Arts for the release of this report. And as well as, if you're not going to be in Atlanta or you're otherwise tied up, you'll be able to witness the ceremony, or rather the release event, through our online platforms. And that's NUL.org across Facebook, Twitter and Instagram at Urban League. So check us out. And to the three of you all, congratulations on your new platform. And I look forward to a continuing relationship.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you.